Today's story is about a car that reaches out to the top for its brand. The Subaru Outback in its all-new generation wants to give us the maximum the brand can do, price-wise, size-wise, not horsepower-wise, that's the task of the WRX STI, but everything else. This one will be very exciting for the exterior, interior and the driving experience of this car. We'll also have a small off-road part later on as well, as this is here a mid-size crossover car. And one of our viewers, Zachary, who's really frequently commenting, and I really love that, he's deciding between the Volkswagen Passat Alltrack and this one, the Subaru Outback, to buy. And I hope at the end of this episode we can solve this issue, which car he should go for. So I'm waiting your comments after this review. And of course, let's now start with everything you need to know about this car. So when we look at the front of this new generation, what do we see? There's a really new front grille. It's really steep, very powerful, more powerful than the predecessor grille. And I really like that because this one has a bigger appearance. Also the headlights has been totally redesigned. So overall, I really like the front also with the big Subaru star logo. If you are, by the way, one about the pronunciation of Subaru, in Germany we say Subaru. And in America you tend to say Subaru, but as far as I know, the original Japanese pronunciation is all more, set on Subaru and not Subaru. But that has always been the discussion on the internet. Let's discuss this further in the comments. So let's now skip the front and move on to the side profile. 4.81 meters is the size or the length of this car, of this mid-size crossover. So that already tells us we'll probably have a lot of space on the inside. And this is also comparable with other large mid-size car we have here in this segment. We only have 17-inch alloys right now here with winter tires, so they look a little bit balloon style, but for winter times that's pretty much okay, and you also cannot damage that alloy then that easily. What do we see in this crossover style? Also with the Outback logo. The lower part is covered with a plastic fender, and I've left the car a little bit dirty on purpose because there you can really see that all the dirt and also all the stones, they are really focused here in that region where the plastic fender is, and therefore you can also see the reason. You have above 20 centimeters in ground clearance, and that is also comparable with normal or even mid-size higher SUVs, So this one here is really suitable if you're maybe living in the countryside and have a gravel road in front of your house. So that will be no problem for this car. In general, what do we see with the side layout? It's really conservative. It's nothing that says, I'm provoking something, I'm really spectacular. A very steep window line, but that one will of course be good for the passengers and for the overview inside. It's not a real design highlight, but if you have customers that more appreciate also a rather conservative design and don't want to have such a joyful design, that doesn't have to be necessarily bad in the choice. Roof rails above here. The only elegant part is the right ending of the last window line, but everything else you see, it's more a car that could have been on the road like 10 or 20 years before, and you wouldn't really see the difference. To me, I would appreciate if have a little bit more of the joyful design, definitely, but that's my personal opinion. I want to hear your opinion about that one, about this layout in the comments. And the scheme is followed here also with the rear. You see, the only joyful part there is that the taillights have a little bit of a 3D effect. Other than that, more again, form follows function. And taking, for example, the price overview now, this one here is quite expensive in Germany. Now in the US it starts about 25,000 euros. In Germany about 35,000 euros. And in the comfort trim level we have here, which is the middle trim level or tending towards the highest, it's about 38,000 euros. And that is exactly the price you pay for a Passat Alltrack in Germany, 38,000 euros. So actually, yeah, you get a good comparison there. And but everywhere else, I think the Volkswagen are a little bit more expensive than the Subaru Outback here in this case for the comparison. Getting inside, door handles, also the closing sound, that all feels quite solid, not too huge, and well, it's easy to control everything. A very easy entry as we're sitting quite up high, and so you also got a very comfortable seating position, and it's really crossover. It's not really feeling like an SUV, but also not like a classic sedan, but for a crossover, it's, you know, rather higher, rather off-road stylish, because there are some crossovers that just have the crossover look, but then, you know, don't really have a crossover feature. Here, that's really the case. And I got the seat at the lowest point that is possible. Those ones here is the comfort trim level, and therefore those ones are the cloth seats. They have two different parts of cloth. I'll soon show you at the inside and at the outside. The full leather equipment, which you should not go for, is then just in the highest trim levels, but there is no need for that, because also in the lower trim levels, most of it, you know, most stuff you need is already in there, and you can pick some things then optional. Those ones here also have an electric control to go in the front and in the back, also the back part of the seat, and an electric lumbar support is also available. But what I can tell you so far, and that also accounts for the co-driver seat where there's no extra lumbar support to be put in, those seats here from the standard setup have a quite strong lumbar support, even if you haven't put that in. To me, I'm usually a fan of, you know, when there's no real lumbar support, but for example Katrina, she more prefers it when it's, you know, strong lumbar support, but that's a personal taste. Overall, you do have a good seating position and also enough space. There's a small glass roof in here, but I still got enough space above my head. I'm 1.86 m for our non-subscribers in height, so you can compare it maybe with your height. And I can already tell you so far, there's really a great overview here, because all the window lines are very steep in general, and you're sitting quite high in comparison also to the hood. Let's take a look at the visual aspects, and I must really say I like it. These aluminum covers here in the special checkered structure, they look and also feel really premium. Also the faux leather that is used here on the inside of the doors, and also all the buttons we find, they really look and feel very good. You see here, this is the second aluminum cover right here. Those are now the seats. You can see there's a different cloth used on the outside, also with contrast stitches, that makes it visually very attractive, and another cloth on the inside. And the outside one is a little bit stickier, and the inside one is, it's, let's say, you can slide on that better. That depends on if it's an advantage or disadvantage of what you're wearing. If you're wearing business clothes, then it is better when you slide on it a little bit more. If you wear jeans, it doesn't really matter that much. Then the steering wheel, and I like it basically. It has the right size, also feels well, and even the buttons on the steering wheel, they are also from a good quality. And you can see the aluminum covers continue at the co-driver's side. And in case you're searching for it, the fuel cap is opened at the lower bottom of the foot mat. And what I also found very nice is that the cover of the middle lower console here, and also of the storage space here in the front, that doesn't feel or really looks like readable, but it has a kind of wood style, and I really like that. So I think they got an elegant mix of surfaces here. And about the technology, this is the CVT, continuously variable transmission, so you won't really feel a single gear. It doesn't work that way. I'll explain you later also when we drive the car. Automatic transmission is included in here. Electric handbrake, and then on the right part, this is to help you when starting the car when you're driving uphill, so you don't roll back. And the left one is the X mode, the off-road mode. You know, we got a permanent all-wheel drive here. And with the X mode then, if we activate it, it's for speeds below 20 kilometers an hour. It helps you with a hill descent. It helps you with the engine characteristic and throttle input. And of course with the all-wheel drive, so everything is smoother for off-road riding. Instruments, analog left and right, digital in the middle part. And there's a standard average consumption view at the top of it. That's really good. And you see, well, consumption will be about 10-11 liters on 100 kilometers for a 2.5 liter petrol engine, naturally aspirated. Well, it could be lower, yes, but it is not higher than with a very small turbo engine, 1.6 liter petrol turbo engine, for example, we got in the Livorg. Then this air conditioning unit, you see from the styling here, it really looks old school, like the car looks from the outside. Again, this doesn't have to be bad. You can also say it's just classic and timeless. For example, how the vents go, AC on off, but the quality of the buttons, everything feels quite well. Well, the rubber around it doesn't feel that good. And you have a very clear display. I like that as well. The time, by the way, is here. I've searched for it. Here we also have seat heating in this higher trim level. As for the infotainment system, what I really like is that it is on the same level than the dashboard. So everything you see here is kind of, one flat area besides of the two buttons right here. And that makes a rather modern look, and is also one of the main changes here with the new generation. These buttons here, they are no real buttons. You use them by touch, but it's good to have them, to have a shortcut to the map each, and here's zoom in and out. It's not the most modern visualization, but it is rather clear, the visualization for the GPS, and therefore I'm also fine with it. In the general menu, everything's also quite intuitional. You got those big app buttons here. For example, the phone, you can connect the phone quite fast, and map I've shown you as well. And there's also a mirror link app available you can then mirror your smartphone with. So overall, I'm really satisfied with this infotainment system. It got everything you need. So there's also vehicle monitor where you can see the oil temperature. I really like that such things are still available. And the volume you can fastly always control with a knob. I like it when you can still do that with the volume, because that's something you maybe sometimes search very quickly. Standard CD slot is still available for that one here as well. And another control I wanted to show you in detail is this one here. This is for the eyesight adaptive cruise control. We'll use that one later when we drive. And because this adaptive cruise control here works not with a sensor, but with a camera, so on an optical level, and therefore they say it is more precise. We'll test that later. And maybe you have seen the lowest part here, S and I. Those ones are the two different driving modes we have, and I'll also explain you that when we drive the car. Rear view camera, let's take a look at that one. And what I really appreciate is that you got a really wide angle, but still it's it's not too unrealistic, the visual impression. And this wide angle makes it possible if you're going like out of a parking box, then you can almost see the cross traffic. And that's a really good safety aspect. And I'm also very satisfied with the resolution. So overall, be well done, but you just have to clean the lens, of course, in in the rear quite often. That is always important. Let's now look at the storage spaces. At the inside of the doors, there's also space for some bottles. Then the standard glove box slides down quite smoothly. There's the user manual in it, and by the way, there's also visual proof that this car, the Outback, sits on the same platform than the Legacy, because the user manual is for both cars at the same time. Then, let's look at that one here. There's a quite huge storage space here for the middle part. And what do we have inside there? There's the 12-volt power supply, as well as 2 USB slots and an aux slot. The right black part here is the cover for the 12-volt slot, by the way. In the middle part, first 2 beverage holders with some adaptive function. That's quite good. Then this middle part, by the way, also feels solid. You can put some smaller stuff in here, but then you can remove it also. And then there's again quite a huge space in here, and you can see there's also another 12-volt power supply hidden. And finally, for your glasses here. And that also leaves us to the controls right here for the roof. This one here just to open it half, and that one here is to open it fully. It's rather small, but I usually like to have one to give it some fresh air from above. And there's also this shade here possible when it's too hot. And then let's look at the basic cockpit layout again. Let me just conclude about it. First of all, the design, rather conservative, but again, that doesn't have to be bad depending on your wishes how an interior should look like. The most modern part is the screen, which is really one flat area. I really like that. And overall, I'm quite satisfied with the infotainment system and also with the quality of the buttons we find here. And so this is really the best I've seen in the Subaru so far, because all the quality of the materials is really solid and keep up to competitors that you would rather place usually, like from comparing brands, in a higher premium region, definitely. Especially, for example, with those aluminum covers here or the middle console part. So overall, I think they have really done a very good job here. And the main thing about this interior is it offers a lot of space. It's really a very spacious feeling, because it's really not focused on design, but more on the space offering. Everything of the windows is very steep, so you don't lose a lot of space. And that's the main thing here already in the front. It will continue also in the rear. Looking at the rear compartment, you can already see that there is a lot of space for your knees. And again, the scheme from the front continues here. Form follows function and a lot of space. Turn down the armrest here for 2 beverage holders, that you can see that one. And then let's see how can I really sit in there. So as we've expected, even if a tall driver is on the front seat, there's so much knee space here. I mean, wow, really very good performance as for the space. Let me just put the head restraint a little bit higher. And the thing is also with the head clearance, that although we have the glass roof in the front, then the ceiling is a little bit higher right here, and therefore I have a lot of space above my head. So it could even almost work with 2 meters in height. So overall, a very good performance here. And also the seating position is rather upright and very comfortable. So far from what we have offered here, there's really no problem to drive with a lot of adults in this car, even if they're very tall. I'm really very keen on the space that is offered in this car. Also take a look at those clever solutions here. I just have to press this button and the seat is flipped automatically. And we get the even loading space. And almost the same we can do from the trunk. That's the key here, by the way, quite light, quite nice. Open it with the Subaru logo, close it above. And then you can also open the trunk with the key here. One strange thing is, it does work here with the electric hatch, but when you go for that one here, I would usually expect that it also opens electronically, but that doesn't work. And then you have to go manual. And then, of course, it's very hard because there's the electric motor. I'm not sure why they did this system here. So I'm then kind of stuck with the key to open it electronically. Not sure if that's really was intended, but it looks strange to me. Let's see, and wow, so much space. Look at the length. Wow. And also the size, that one is really cool. Or what do you think? Also some practical solutions again. We got a cover here. It doesn't have rails on each side, but for one that doesn't have rails, it is quite well handleable, definitely. And then again, the second solution to flip the seats is right here and also at the other side. One lever, two levers, and then you got all the way here. Very nice and easy solution. And below, we got some more other space. There's no real replacement tire here right now, but you can put, of course, more stuff than here. Here in the length all the way. Only thing you cannot do is putting the front seat all flat to the front. So putting it all flat to the back and maybe remove the head restraint, and that's the only way possible. The hood is opened right below here on the left side, by the way. Well, this one has not been covered that beautifully, but who besides Autogefühl looks here? Let's take a look beneath the hood about the engine. 2.5 liter naturally aspirated petrol engine. It's a flat engine, or a boxer as you also call it. I really like those engines. They have good performance and they're also very durable. 2.5 liter here, 175 horsepower. There's also a 2 liter diesel available with 150 horsepower. They have kind of the same performance, about 10 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers. But those boxer engine combined with the CVT, that special transmission, it feels faster than they actually are. Also, that's a very funny experience. I will tell you later on when we drive the car. And then for our friends in the US, or for example also in New Zealand, there's also the 3.6 liter petrol engine available. We don't have that one in Germany, but that one of course gives you even more performance, but also consumes your fuel. Let's start with our test ride. As I said earlier, 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine, 175 horsepower, 20 centimeters of ground clearance, 10 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. So these are the facts. And we start with you in the crossover for some speed bumps we have on the road. And the really good thing is that is totally not a problem. And you don't have to be afraid of touching the ground with the vehicle, as you have enough ground clearance. And also from suspension, it's really evening out those speed bumps very well. And as all of our cities are full of those really nasty speed bumps, this can be a really good advantage having an SUV or crossover only for these purposes here. So then when driving at lower speeds, what I can already tell you about the steering is it does need some power. On the other hand, it feels rather natural, that's good. But it's not that very soft steering wheel and where you don't have to hardly any pressure with any angle. So it does need some work, the steering wheel. But that's of course also always personal preference. Some rather like the very soft steering wheels, some like it a little bit stiffer. And however, overall it's still a good riding feeling as for the steering wheel. As I hammer the brakes, it also gives me good contact to the road. Also from the sensitivity, I'm perfectly fine with it. As for the throttle, and I'll show you that when we start here at the traffic light again, the throttle input is really sensitive and already in the normal mode. And I have shown you earlier that on the steering we got the I and the S mode. Beep, beep, beep. It sounds a little bit cheap, that sound. It says SI drive, and I have S or I. And I means it's kind of a normal thing, and S, that even improves the throttle input, turns up the gears a little bit higher, gives you a little bit more power. But I don't think you really need it, because already in the I mode, if I just press the throttle very gently, the car boosts to the front. Like here now, that's like just that bit of a throttle I'm I'm pressing, and so the car really feels very fast, faster than it actually is. And that is also due to the CVT, continuously variable transmission. That means it's not a real classic converter automatic gearbox where you have certain gears. It's more conceivable as you have like one gear for everything, but the transmission is of course still adjusting to the power transporting ratios. You should check that up on Wikipedia if you want to have a visualization of how that one works. It's a really interesting system, I can tell you. It's a different kind of feeling when driving it. We already had it in the Subaru Outback. They are really quite often using that one. But I think I like it because you don't feel those gear transmissions then. It's just when you push the throttle really hard, then somehow in some of the RPMs turn up very high. But especially if you drive this car very calmly, stay in the low RPMs, it gives you a very, very smooth ride. And when I just like push the throttle half, do you see what I mean? RPMs turn quite high for that one. And therefore I also tend not to use the S mode, because in the S mode, if I put the throttle in half, it's even more stressed, that feeling. And so I don't really need that kind of, more reaction. Therefore just tend to drive in the S mode. The turning indicator sounds a little bit old school to me, I think, by the way. Or what do you think? From giving that lot of thought, it reminds me of very old automatic gearboxes. For example, thinking about the Volkswagen Golf in its, I think, the Golf 4. So, we have Golf 7 generation right now, 6, 5, Golf 4. Because there it also happened that before the automatic gearbox set in, it took a lot of RPMs there. But again, if you don't press the throttle that hard, it's very smoothly to drive. You usually leave it in D mode, however you can also go to the S mode if you put the automatic gear shifting lever to the left part. Then it's possible also to use the shifting pedals here. They feel also quite good, and then you can shift up, second gear, first. So it's kept manual. This is especially important not necessarily to shift up, because then you leave it in the D mode. It's more important if you go downhill for a long time. Let's see, going up in the Alps and then going downhill for a very long time, you want to use the engine brake and therefore maybe shift down to second gear manually. That's a very useful thing then. Usually I just leave it in the D mode when we're driving there. I do feel that we sit higher. It's a very comfortable ride, definitely. The suspension is also set on a rather comfortable ride that does fit to the car. And this higher command seating position, of course, SUVs where you sit even higher, but for a crossover, that's the real deal already. And what I've mentioned hey, you shouldn't come too close to me. Always pay attention to other crazy drivers. When you got those very steep window lines everywhere around you, and you have a rather low hood in comparison to your high seating position, that gives you really a superb overview here. And we hardly have that in modern cars, because so many of those modern cars are set on the design part. Of course, because this one is selling cars. And if you have that spectacular design on the outside, it often reduces the visibility on the inside. This one is not the case here. You do have the conservative outside exterior then, yes, but it leaves you with a great visibility to all of the sides. And therefore, although we have a car that is already just right above 4 meters and 80 in length, and is one of the bigger mid-size segment cars, you still, don't feel you're in such a huge car, because you have that great visibility, and that gives you a very secure feeling when riding. So the overall driving feeling, especially when we're here in the narrow city driving part, We soon also come more to the countryside, outside part of Autobahn riding, and of course the most fun part, a little bit of off-road riding. The most important part of this car driving experience here is really feeling safe and comfortable due to this good visibility. The car is very easy to handle, and from everything you've seen on the outside and also on the inside, from all the commands and how you access the car, this car is really kept simple. And again, that doesn't have to be some negative thing, because it makes you also, makes the whole car more accessible especially for new drivers. So when you've never driven a Subaru so far, besides that, the special transmission and the throttle input needs some, getting used to it. Everything else is really kept simple and easy, that there's no problem with getting to know the car and being overwhelmed. And especially from the cockpit layout, what the driving feeling is transporting, there's also a huge difference to the Volkswagen Passat. We've talked about that earlier. In the Passat, you more feel like in a cockpit style, feels like more is around you, you're more sitting in the car. Here it is again, because everything out, besides it's kept low and visible, it's more you sitting, on the car. It's a little bit funny expression, but I hope you get what I mean. And that's again, the question is, what do you like best? Even if there are some bumps in the road, by the way, I think the suspension does it very well, so I have no complaints about that. If I'm more into this driving fun part, see when I'm going some wobbling around here, there I don't really feel that it's set on the comfortable ride. It's rather feels a little bit loose, and you don't have this very exact contact to the road. And that is also one difference to the Passat. The Passat has also a really great suspension, but at the same time has a little bit more contact to the road if you want to drive a little bit sportier. So driving sporty with this car is no topic at all. It doesn't have to be, but if that's something that's important to you, you surely won't find it here. Seen it also here when I do some lane changes. Car's tilting quite much. Not too much, it's still okay, and for this crossover segments, I'm perfectly fine with it. You just have to know it. Again, we can go some test with the SI drive mode. Maybe you've heard that it's not a gear that the car is shifting over, but it's kind of presetting a little bit. Consumption, I've told you that earlier, will be around 11 liters, and I have driven naturally aspirated engines V8 with about 10 to 11 liters. The Jaguar 5-liter V8 that used to be available, by the way, that one was really great. Other ones I used more, but my main point is that we got another proof here that downsizing is not the solution. Going electric, going CNG, that's a solution for the environment, but downsizing, that's just a solution on paper for the fleet consumption, on paper for the manufacturers, because we can have the same consumption with the 1.6 liter turbo in the Levorg and the 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine here in the Subaru Outback. And overall, I think it's quite fine to me. I mean, economy could always be lower, but then I think you should go for the diesel if you really want it. But I'm usually a fan of naturally aspirated petrol engines when we are still talking about normal combustion engine and not, the alternative drives like, for example, also CNG, which is also still combustion. But also, of course, the electric drive or hydrogen drive. We're always keeping you updated about those developments as well, and already have shown you a lot of reviews on hydrogen cars as well as on electric cars. So we always keep updated with that one on Autogefühl as well. So overall, a very relaxed driving feeling here with a good overview. That I think is the main aspect of this car. And soon we'll also get to our motorway parts that we can show you a little bit more of the acceleration power and also how the engine behaves then. We can then test it again with the S and the I mode. And what is also coming up now is the eyesight test. Eyesight, that is this assistance system pack. And it consists, for example, of city emergency brake, of this adaptive cruise control. And I really like to have that they offer that one now. It's a really good package they're offering. And I was really interested that they said, okay, we don't do that with sensors, we do it on an optical level with a camera. Subaru argues that this one is more precise if you compare it to a sensor, and is also supposed to be cheaper in building. And they want to put that back to the customer then, offer such a system for a lower price because the system itself costs less. I think it's a very interesting approach, and I want to test that. Maybe some city acceleration, or you use from 50 to 70. Let's see how fast that approach is. Let's see now. That's it. Could have been faster, couldn't it? So we activate then the automatic cruise control already, right here with this button first. And then we can set the distance here to, how I want to keep the distance. And then we'll search a car in front of us. Of course, we have to maintain the speed limit. And then they could resume so that the speed is maintained. Or maybe someone wants to overtake us, who wants to drive more than is allowed. In Germany, people always drive about 5 to 10 kilometers more than is really loud usually. So, let's now get behind this Opel Corsa, set to 73 kilometers an hour, and just see how the car performs there. Let's put it to 75. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, now you can basically relax. That's a good thing. I would always pick an adaptive cruise control nowadays, because sometimes, if you want to search something in the map set or take a phone call or something like that, it's always good to rely on an electric system there as well. That's always a good thing. So, and the thing is also, when you keep the speed limit in Germany, or even drive 75 kilometers an hour, although 70 is allowed, someone from behind is bullying you. That's car driving in Germany. People always, we say in Germany, mit dem Messer zwischen den Zähnen. That means like if you have a knife between your knees, like in the old pirate movies, and that's just an expression of how aggressive people are driving. And German auto drivers always think they are the best driver, like not each one singly. Always thinks he or she is the best car driver in the whole world. It's like everyone thinks he's the best soccer trainer when he's watching the football game. So let's close up the car in front of me again and set the cruise control. And it feels very smooth. Some cruise controls, they tend to, sometimes go too fast, too slow. But this one here seems very good to me. You see, I have the speed set to 105, but speed is kept at 90 kilometers an hour. Let's reduce the distance now to the minimum distance. And the car is accelerating a little bit. But again, this transition here is really smooth. So when they say this optical solution is really precise, so far I think I can agree to that. Very nice, really. Will be even more exciting. We will test it very soon. Oh, that's, by the way, another assistance system. That's the lane keeping assist, giving me an acoustic warning and also a visual warning in the middle part when I'm going off the side. Let's try it again. Works very well. That might be another effect of this optical thing. I just wonder what is it in bad weather conditions. I'm very glad I cannot test it today because we don't have bad weather today. But it might be also worth another test at some other time. But so far, very nice. I can also put the distance higher again. Let's see. Yeah, very smooth transition now. Speed goes a little bit lower. I really like that. So far, I think the Volvo and the Mercedes systems are among the best for the adaptive cruise controls. Volkswagen system is also quite nice, definitely. But here, maybe it's one of the systems now I really favor. Didn't expect that. So now the car is accelerating, orienting on the next car in front of me because the other car was leaving the motorway. Quite well done. Let us get off the motorway now. So now I have no car in front of me, therefore it's going to the maximum speed. But that again, also very well done. So that's the effect when you're really pushing the throttle. Let's now test a new roundabout, a little bit more of the agility of the car. That feels good, definitely. Let's just go one more round. Yeah. Well, it's not the sportiest feeling, definitely, but it also doesn't feel bad when you're driving a little bit faster. So that's nice. So 30 kilometers an hour now, that's when you're close to some maybe kindergarten, school, then driving 30 kilometers an hour in Germany. It feels very slow, of course, in this car. Sound insulation, I think, is on a good level in general. I have experienced way worse cars, but also some better cars. But I think in general, also when we were on the motorway, the sound insulation is reasonably good. I would take it that way. So now again, 50 kilometers. We can show you the acceleration figures now in I and the S mode. One behind us. Let's go from 0 in the I mode. Let's go now. 50. That was in the I mode. There a Passat is coming to us. Not a Passat Alltrack, but one of those new Volkswagen Passat B8. And let's now go in the S mode. 0 to 50. Go. There it is. Already 60. Yeah, I think you felt that, or seen the difference, also heard the difference, that the gear was turned up a little bit higher. But was it really a huge difference? And the acceleration I felt, I'm not that sure. But maybe I should check, we should check together the time code then, if it was really such a difference from 0 to 50 kilometers. But again, I mean, why not having this kind of setting to be a little bit more flexible in controlling the car? So overall, I think we have already covered different aspects of riding the car now. I feel very comfortable here with that good overview. Maybe the RPMs turn too high sometimes, just also from what you hear. It could be a little bit better, a little bit more refined. But I really like that I got a naturally aspirated engine here and no turbo that could possibly break. That's also a very big advantage there for this. And also this assistance system package. I can also really recommend that. Also the rear view camera I've shown you. So almost everything we've seen so far here, besides maybe the hatch that was sometimes it did work, by the way, also, when you're not pressing the key, but just when you press it below there. That was kind of the only flaw we've seen of the car so far. I think so far we got a very good result already. Now I'm really looking forward to go with a little off-road riding. Now it's time from on to off-road. We put the X mode in, and that one is working at low speeds. And now we, for example, also have the hill descent control in, and I'm lifting my foot off the throttle, and you see the car doesn't roll that fast. Really slowly I'm going down the hill now, and the hill descent control is doing everything for me. And this off-road, you hear even the brakes in between when the car is pushing the brakes harder, by the way. And well, at the same time, this ground clearance we have and the off-road suspension is doing the rest, because you see there are some rocks on the road here now, and I really love that I have this great ground clearance. So that one really keeps me safe then. Always a fun rattling sound from the brakes. Wow, this is really good job the hill descent control is doing here now. Really like that. And well, steering also is lighter now to control in the off-road mode. And I must really say that off-road suspension really makes it a very comfortable ride, even when going off-road here. So, and this gives me the impression that this car is also a little bit more off-road capable than the Passat. It might be also just an impression, but you can also give me your comments on that one here. Really very nice. Really like that. By the way, if you drive more than 20 kilometers an hour, the X mode deactivates itself already again. But it's good to have such an X mode. Also says here on the screen X mode. And the permanent all-wheel drive is, of course, always active then. And it's different than, you know, those systems that are predominantly front-wheel drive plus rear-wheel drive. This one here is really the permanent one. Of course, still it is you know, different per axle, which one really, you know, where the power really is. So very good off-road performance here. And now it gets really muddy. Let's see how the car is handling that. And it's also getting deeper. Now we're getting really slow. But so far, very slowly, of course, if we don't damage the car. But, well, nice. And feels everything so soft and smooth. I really like that. And of course, you know, off-road riding is also one of my favorite parts. Mainly on 2 wheels, but on 4 wheels it's of course also a lot of fun and always spectacular, especially when you have a car that is reasonably off-road capable. So I got me and the car dirty now, just for you of course, but I think we had a lot of fun in this review and could cover a lot of different aspects. Let me conclude again. The exterior, quite conservative, nothing really spectacular. You have to like it. To me, you know, it's not that elegant, but what's your opinion on that one? Interior, really good in the refinement, a very solid build quality. I was quite amazed by that. Modern infotainment system, and a lot of space is being offered. Just sometimes this electronic opening with the hatch is not working when you're not using the key, but you're pressing it separately. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's the only flaw I found with this car. Driving, a really relaxed feeling, a good suspension. You do have an off-road feeling, definitely, from a permanent all-wheel drive and also from how high the car is sitting. Very good visibility to all of the sides. The 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine was really surprising for me, surprisingly good, and I really like naturally aspirated engines still, as it comes for classic combustion engines. And the CVT, as long as you drive it rather calmly, it's a very smooth shifting engine, and I really liked that as well. Just not when you want a very sporty ride, that's not the real car for you then. So overall, I think almost in kind of every discipline, you know, this car is not really screaming out. It's not really that it's very spectacular. That we say, oh, I have a Subaru Outback now, it's so unique, it's so special, but it is very good in every respect. And I think that really speaks for the car. And then we come to our initial question, especially for Zach. Should you go for the Passat Alltrack or for the Subaru Outback? Well, of course, it always depends on your real needs. I think if you really like the off-road features are most important for you, I think this one here is the better choice. As for the exterior, for the styling, I would clearly go for the Passat. Also for the interior, as for design, the Passat is also my favorite there and offers even a little bit more in refinement, I think. Also, if you come to some small details like the sounds of the electronic motors of the seats, if you really go into the detail, those ones here sound, you know, rather cheap, and the Passat more refined. If you look at those details, then of course the question is about the technology inside. Both cars are very comfortable. The Passat maybe a little bit better as for the sound insulation. I don't like that we only get the turbos with the Volkswagen. Here we also can get the naturally aspirated engine. That one is an advantage for this one. Also, as it doesn't consume more, maybe sometimes even less. And then the question is, of course, what to take from it overall. If it is at the same price, as the same list price, as it is in Germany, I would go for the Passat definitely. But the question is always, what real offer you get at the dealer? You know, what's the real offer you can get? And if you, for example, pay, let's say, $5,000 less for Outback, I think I would go for the Outback then. But of course, I want to hear your opinion on this car. Also, the small comparison we did to the Passat Alltrack. If you haven't watched the Passat Alltrack review so far, do it. It's in the video description linked below there. That was our off-road and on-road story for today with the Subaru Outback. Give us the feedback, and I hope I'll see you at the next Autogefühl episode with Thomas. Thank you for watching. And Beck, now you also have to tell me what you take from this review. See you next time, Beck.